My name is Tony Nguyen. Today I am interviewing Malik Anderson. Today I want to interview you about that time, your freshman year, fall semester, when you created your own organization on campus. Can you tell me more about that story?
Well, Tony, I'd been a member of the National Association of Black Journalists for a year prior to me even coming to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So it actually began in my senior year of high school. Um, I participated in the student newspaper group. I was managing copy editor, and our editor, who had graduated and had spent some years at Marquette, was vice president of her chapter at Marquette at that time, and she invited me to this regional conference. At this regional conference, I met up with, at the register, paid $20. I met up with a variety of students from across the country, across the Midwest, who were all interested in the same thing, journalism. They all wanted to do something media related. And I just thought that was just really cool, because at home or like in school in Milwaukee, the high school that I went to, not everyone, participated in the student newspaper. Not everyone had an interest in going into journalism. And so I knew that in college I wanted something similar to that, or if not, if I could replicate that same exact feeling of being around and networking with individuals of color who were seeking to become journalists or cartoonists, photographers, or whatever their skill sets were for the communications field. So once I ended up coming to campus, I met at least one person within the summer collegiate program, which was a program that I had to go to for credit. Out of all of, I bet like 100 and over 100 students, only one other person that I found actually interested in becoming a journalist, and we decided to form this group. So I said, great. And so once we got on campus, we spoke with nationals and about forming a chapter, which would have been, we are the second entity in Wisconsin, second collegiate entity in Wisconsin to be formed, and we made it happen. And it was a lot of work.
Okay, how many people were there at the beginning when you came to create this organization on campus here?
Well, before and the summer collegiate experience, it was just me and her, my co-leader. And eventually, once we actually came on campus for the fall, we found about, I want to say about 5 others who were interested, and out of those 5, there were maybe 3 who were really interested and 1 willing to come to meetings. So when we first began, and when we had meetings or interest meetings, sometimes only 1 person would show up, because it was just like, it was getting off to a start. But once we sort of we came together, found advisors, so we did an advising panel and complied with university guidelines of how to start an organization. And then that's when we gained more interest in our organization, and then it grew. Suddenly it became 10 people interested.
So do you think that these people joined your organization due to it wasn't on campus before and people were not aware of it?
Yes, I also believe that these people joined this organization because there was nothing like it for them, so to speak. So within the journalism department, there are very few students of color. And J201, the semester that I took it, it was probably about three, three students of color, including myself. You know, not all of us were interested in journalism, so it's a very very tight crowd of people, very like very exclusive. There's not many of us. It's like a needle in a haystack.
Do you see your organization expanding more over time? Maybe by the time you graduate, do you feel like you will have like 50 members or something like that?
I would hope so. I would hope by the time that I graduate, we're able to have an entire network of journalists of color. Of We're able to have events that we probably would pack up a room. I don't know if we'll ever get to fit that 400 student lecture hall, but maybe. I hope realistically, I hope by the time that I graduate that I'm able to see at least like 30 members.
Okay, so why why is it that you feel like this is needed on campus? This organization that you created.
So one of the main focuses of the National Organization of Black Journalists is that it's to strengthen communications between student journalists of color while providing networking and resources to them, while also making sure that entities or media entities in that area are sensitive to people of color, to minorities. And I feel that it's needed because we have the Daily Cardinal, and we have the Badger Herald, and we have all of our campus publications, but how many of them do you actually know to report on students of color? Things that students of color are interested in, things that actually matter to students of color or affect them. It's that sort of material, and our campus media is very scarce. And when they do, it's very limited in perspective. And so that's the goal of the organization. So it doesn't just serve just people who are interested in media, but interested in changing the media that is around us currently.
Do you feel like this organization has helped you for the real world?
Yes, I do. I believe nationally it's given me the tools to network with others, as well as provided me with opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise known about. It's also helping me plan for the future as far as who could I talk to and where could I go if I want to get a job, or who do I need to contact. It's also provided me with experience in leadership roles that I don't think I would have otherwise gotten.
Okay. So by starting this organization, you had interest beforehand with journalism. Can you tell me more why you were interested?
Yes. Well, I think I have been interested in journalism since the 4th grade. Around that time, I maybe thought I wanted to be a scientist, but wasn't great at science. And then I was good at math. I was the fraction king, but it just didn't interest me that much as journalism did. And then that was when Smallville was coming out, and Clark Kent was in high school, and then he worked on a student newspaper and started. I just thought that was awesome. So in school, when we had our technology club, we used to have this thing called technology club, where all students had some type of club on Fridays. I would go to the computer, and when they gave us free time to do whatever we wanted on the computer, play games, whatever it was, I would type up a story. And I remember once I wrote a story about the sales club selling M&Ms, and I printed out that story with a picture of M&Ms and sold it to teachers for 25 cents. In middle school, I started our first student newspaper. I don't know if it still goes on today, but then that was like a major milestone. And ever since then, I have not really changed changed my career goals as far as journalism. I still want to go into that industry, but it's just been fascinating just exploring media as I grow up, since the technology grows with me. And so I've always been interested in doing something journalism related.
Do you think your journalism club will expand to other chapters or other universities also? Obviously, you said in Wisconsin there's only 2 chapters here.
Yeah, that's some Marquette. Um, I think it will. I know there are places like Syracuse University who have very active chapters who were voted chapter of the year about 2 years ago. And then there are other places that have very active chapters as well. I find it interesting that here at this institution, this is a predominantly white institution but it still has a large population of people of color that an organization wasn't established. So I do think that it will catch on, especially today with more interest in journalism. Of course, after all that has happened in the news with Ferguson, that's what gets people like interested in covering those events and seeing what's going to happen and seeing what's the next step or what are people going to do or what is the government going to do.
Do you feel like the process of creating that organization on this campus was hard when you went through the process?
It was very hard because we experienced lack of support. There weren't a lot of people who were interested in seeing this organization, just quite a few. And then there was a lack of knowledge about the organization. And then you have to convince out of all the student organizations on campus why students should participate or get involved with this one. Plus you have to comply with the student guidelines for forming an organization. You have to find an advisor. It's definitely a lot of work.
All right. So this organization, do you feel like this will grow in the way that you've seen other chapters have it? Or is this like your take on how this organization is building?
I think eventually the chapter will grow, but each university is unique, and I recognize Wisconsin to be a very unique place. So we've actually been looking into ways to make this chapter work for us, rather than trying to fit into the traditional model of how National Association of Black Journalists chapter should work. And so I'm very curious to see where it goes. I'm not quite sure what it will look like in the future, but I do imagine that it will be very active, and it might even change the layout of how campus media is today.
Were you scared that, since you were a freshman, first semester student, were you scared like it was a challenge to find people and get this organization started? Will it die out?
Yeah, my main fear as a freshman starting this organization was like, will people even listen to me? Or will this organization be a failure? I just thought of that people have to, someone has to start somewhere. And so I wanted to be that person.
Thank you for your time today, Malik, for doing this interview with myself and sharing your story. Yeah.